we saw before.
That's exactly
The
right.
bill number is HB 406.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is an amendment.
Rick, report line amendment, please.
Line 18, after relationship, insert any persons subject such potential restriction shall be served notice of a petition to the extent possible.
All right, and this is a bill, as I recall, that Delegate Kobe had before, that addressed when a guardian of an incapacitated person can prevent people from interacting with that person. I think we had 5 or 6 hearings on this bill, probably 5 or 10 hours of total testimony. And so one thing will be helpful when we get going is maybe to explain is what's different about your proposal versus what we saw last time that we didn't adopt, if you know. But we do have the line amendment reported before us. Everybody comfortable with line amendment? Anybody want to make a motion to adopt the line amendment? All right, moved, seconded that we amend HB 406. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, go ahead, Delegate Reed.
Sure.
So Delegate Reed, if you want to testify to the bill, you're allowed to after him.
Sure. So this bill basically protects people who have established relationships with people who have a guardian. And most of these come up in Alzheimer's cases where usually it's a family member. You may have heard the very famous case of Glenn Campbell or Peter Falk or Casey Kasem. Those are very famous people where a stepmother denied the kid's right to see the person there who had dementia or who was under Alzheimer's. Basically what the bill does, and this is what Delegate Fogarty certainly tried to do, what Senator Wagner tried to do 2 years ago, and in fact Delegate Fogarty is the chief co-patron of this bill, is to say basically people who have established relationships with people with Alzheimer's disease should be able to keep those up. We shouldn't leave people who want to see their family members alone when they're losing mental capacity. It's really quite cruel to them, and the bill specifically says people with whom the Alzheimer's patient is asking to see or have an established relationship. Again, the watered-down version says shall not unreasonably restrict. The problem is there's no enforcement mechanism. There wasn't in Delegate Fogarty's original bill, there is in my bill. There is no enforcement mechanism. The family member who wants to see someone is required to go to court and do something extreme like try to terminate the guardianship just to see the person that they want to see. What this bill says is that generally we think family members should be able to see the person who has Alzheimer's. And in the rare case where a family member is abusive, the guardian can go to court and get a court order and keep them out. But the default is they come in unless the guardian firmly keeps them out. I've got a couple witnesses today that have really very powerful stories. Liz Scalatos and her brother Matt Scalatos are here. They complain about a guardian's negligent care. And as soon as they complain about the guardian's negligent care of the ward, the guardian said, aha, I'm going to restrict your visits. You know, I don't want you complaining about negligent care. So this is a retaliation that happened to them. I have another constituent, Mike Jacobs, who's here. And he got phone calls from a woman he has his loved one for 14 years. And I actually want to play some of those phone calls to you. Left on his answering machine. She is being restricted from seeing him. She's begging to see him. And her guardian is refusing to let him see her. And again, if guardians have reasons, they can go to court. But otherwise, loved ones should be able to see their families. I'd like to briefly play for you some of the recordings. This is James. This is Mike Jacobs' loved one. I think there's a picture that he wants to show to
Hey,
you.
Mike, thanks for being here. I didn't get your last name. Jacobs?
Mike Jacobs.
Hi, Mr. Jacobs.
It's a picture of him and James. And this is Jane calling, and when Mike's not home, leaving a message on his answering machine begging him to see her. But he can't because the guardian is keeping him out.
Michael, my love, it's been forwarded. I don't please don't hang that up. Don't. This is a man I was trying to reach the end of my life. Hello? Hello?
They're hanging up on her.
Somebody there? Hello?
Michael. Another call. There's about several calls put together.
Until your dying day. And please, under color after me again, call me by name. I was walking.
Michael, my love, only man I have ever loved, as you well know. As you said a while back, we're not gonna be able to find each other at some point. I believe you have tears rolling down your face at that point, I got your sympathy. Otherwise, I will be searching for you, looking for you, and as soon as I get my hands on that lawyer, I'm gonna find out exactly where you're located. Since I don't know where the hell you are. And he's gonna give you this man full information or he's fired out of my life forever.
So you hear she's been threatened to fire the lawyer. She has no power. She's the ward. She wants to see her love. She doesn't want this guardian keeping her away. Why are we doing this to families? And I think Mr. Arlando, maybe briefly, just very briefly.
Sure.
I don't
Come
know,
on up,
tell
we'd
your-
love to
tell
hear
your
your
story.
testimony. Thanks for being here today, Mr. Arlotta.
Oh, my
Please
pleasure.
speak at the
My
microphone.
pleasure. Our story is very similar. In a settlement agreement that we reached with our father's spouse or stepmother, a guardian was appointed by the court. Our father quickly went into facilitated living. After that guardian was appointed, it started to go downhill fast. We saw evidence of abuse at the nursing home. We followed the chain of command. We went to the guardian, reported it. Immediately, she started cracking down. She started eliminating visitation. She started, I paid over $3,000 in paid monitored supervision. My brother, sitting right back over here, has been banned from seeing his father since September of last year because he wrote 2 letters to 2 agencies explaining some visible incidences of lack of care and some concerns. And because he wrote a letter and they found out about it, he hasn't seen his father since September. We are ambushed. We're in despair. We petitioned the court twice to try to get relief, and we're told, you don't have an attorney. We're throwing your petition out. So, the first guardian put a motion for aid and direction in 5 months into her tenure. The first thing she said was, oh, the $64,000 in attorney's fees that were awarded to you, Ms. Carlotta, because of the settlement agreement that you set aside exclusively for your father's care, I need those for my fees. She took that money away that was for my father, to pay her fees. And then she started restricting our visitation. The judge sat there, did not give us any opportunity to speak on our behalf. We had an attorney representing us, by the way, and just signed off on it. So,
Thank you, Ms. Carlos. Now, of course, my bill does allow a court, in cases where there should be restrictions, a guardian can go to court and get those restrictions. But I think in general, family members shouldn't have to go to court. They shouldn't have to file a complaint. They should be able to see their family members unless the guardian doesn't want them to. I'm happy to address any language in the bill.
Doug, did you want?
Oh, and Delegate Reed's bill is similar to mine. I think that's why he struck it, so that I can go forward, but.
Such a nice guy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, his bill is actually more comprehensive than mine, so I thought that it was appropriate to go ahead and have mine struck, and then I'm going to sign on to co-patron his. And again, Liz is someone who I have known for years, and she has brought this to my attention, and I believe that this is a way that we can actually address her problem and other people's problems so that she can have access to her elderly father. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else here to speak in favor of the bill? Thank you for being here. Introduce yourself and offer your testimony.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Colleen Miller from the Disability Law Center, Virginia. We do support this legislation. We think a lot of times these restrictions are put in place by well-meaning guardians, but there are a lot of times we've seen for our own clients where they've really been abusively applied. Thank you.
Have you been able to see how the 2016 law has been applied?
I have not. I don't have any statistics on that.
The issue that a lot of us have, because we spend so much time working this issue, which I think is reflective of this subcommittee's recognition of the importance of this issue, and we tried so many approaches, and we landed on that language that we all sort of thought was the best way to do it, in conjunction with Delegate Toscano's bill from 3 years ago that created a better cause of action for elder abuse. And so normally before we revisit that, we'd like to see how it plays out. And that bill's only been in effect now for 18 months or so.
No, I don't have access to that.
All right, well, thank you for being here. Come on up, introduce yourself and offer your testimony.
Hi, my name is Davis Grape. I work at the Virginia Poverty Law Center. We also support this bill. One of the things we do at the Poverty Law Center is we run a senior legal helpline. I do get calls with people asking about guardianship restrictions and how can they, see their loved one. It's frustrating for me to have to tell them, the law says it can't be unreasonably restricted, but how much else we can do.
And have you had any experience with sort of the same question about courts' applicability of the bill we passed in 2016? Okay. All right, anybody else here speak in favor of the bill? Anybody here speak in opposition to the bill? All right, so the bill's before the subcommittee, so, I think Hope you weren't here, I don't think you were going to get this bill. I can't remember. So we got a couple new members on here, so the issue is frankly to me, we all recognize the problem with why we passed the 2016 bill, why we passed the Sconos bill 3 years ago. The question is whether or not what we did then was adequate, or whether or not it needs to be beefed up. If we think it's adequate, of course, we wouldn't go forward. If we think it needs to be beefed up, then we need to get into the minutia of the words of the bill.
If I could
Hold on a second. And any questions for the patron? Okay, go ahead, Justin, you have the last word.
My concern is that the watered down language says shall not unreasonably restrict, and that's good as it sounds, but there's no enforcement mechanism. So it's all about who has the burden. Does the family have the burden if they want to see their loved ones to go into court, to argue this unreasonable restriction, to pay the legal fees, and all of that? Or is our belief that most of the time, families who want to see someone who has Alzheimer's, who is, limited capacity, they generally are of good, well-meaning, and in those few cases where they're not, the guardian has the burden to keep them out, rather than keeping out family members. And there's all these cases where this power has been abused. You heard Scarlatos, they complained about care. You heard with Mike Jacobs, my constituent, Jane is begging him to see her, and they're hanging up the phone. And you may have read about Glenn Campbell and Casey Kasem and Falk, where there's disputes between a stepmother and the children. If someone has Alzheimer's, let them be visited. That's what a compassionate person does, unless there's some reason to believe there's some kind of illness.
So it's kind
Mr. Chairman, question for the patron.
Yeah.
No, these cases are really, really painful. And those of us who served as guardians occasionally get called from our incapacitated adult. They want to see this person or that person. And I have a case right now where I got somebody who calls me all the time, says, "You're not doing a good job being my guardian. I want to see somebody." The problem is that somebody had been taking money from them, and the person didn't know. So it's really, really hard stuff. My question is, let's say, under this, it says it's the guardian that has the burden to bring it forward to court. If some relative contacts them and says they want to see the incapacitated person, if the guardian doesn't do it, I want to make sure I understand what happens. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the aggrieved parties then would still have to go back to court, right?
Well,
if the guardian doesn't do something and prevents the contact, the aggrieved party, the one who doesn't get the contact, would still have to go back to court, right?
I'm not so sure. I think the statute says the aggrieved party has the right to come in and go in and see and show the hospital, hey, I have a right to come in unless you have a court order saying I don't. The idea is the guardian has the burden of proof. And of course, the guardian has assets, has the state, has the ability to do that. The guardian can seek a protective order. But the point is that we want family members to have the right to see it unless the guardian affirmatively shows that they don't.
So one thing, just to also interject for the committee. So there's a couple issues here. One is the process by which we identify, train, and select guardians to make sure we get the right people at the front end, and that's of course the court process. And then there's the how do we handle the guardians not doing their job. I think in part because of the legislation that we've advanced over the last couple of years, the Supreme Court actually is undergoing now a study of the guardianship process. So we're emailing. We had gotten an email from the court back in December that indicated that the ABA has the Working Interdisciplinary Network of Guardianship Stakeholders, and they're having a work group, and Chief Justice Lemons announced that they're going to spend some time looking at this issue. Is that the status of the court?
Mr. Chairman, that is the information I received. Ms. Hurd actually, I don't know if she has further information on that, but that attachment that I sent you, it does look like they're gonna be studying the guardianship process in comprehensive detail over the next couple of years. I don't know if that's formally been announced or if that's an official policy of theirs, but it does sound like they're listening.
It's not apparently was announced at the state judiciary. So when we did this bill last time, we focused totally on the back end. After there's a guardian, the guardian's arguably not doing their job properly, and that's where this bill is focused. This is a front-end initiative of evaluating guardianships, their appointments, training, how they're used, all that type of thing, which might be in conjunction with the 2016 legislation, all that we need, and it might reveal some more problems that need to be addressed. You jumped up when I talked about that. Did you have something to add to that? Mumblings and rumblings?
Just that the Supreme Court's study initiative is underway. It's been underway for about a year now.
Okay.
There is a proposal that the group is bringing to this committee, I believe, soon.
And soon, like this session soon?
I think it is, I don't recall whether it's assigned to this subcommittee or not, but I think it's this subcommittee. Yes, it's filed.
That's what you get when you're not the guy on that committee. Vaughn, introduce yourself and tell us what's going on.
My name is Brandy Singleton. I'm with the Office of the Executive Secretary, which is the administrative arm of the Supreme Court. There is a bill that will come before. I do not know if it'll be this subcommittee or if it'll go to now Subcommittee 3. And I don't remember the number off the top of my head. Delegate Krizik is the patron of the bill. And what it does is it puts a little more teeth behind the reports that guardians have to file each year with the court. Well, actually, they file it with DSS. And then DSS evaluates if it's insufficient and they think it needs court attention. They then file a petition before the court for additional review of the guardian.
So this is HB 216, Guardians Licensed Physicians Annual Report.
Yes.
That is correct.
It's actually been assigned to HWI.
In the Senate, it was initially assigned to rehab and then re-referred to courts. We were anticipating.
And so right now, the law is every guardian has to file an annual report. The new proposal coming forward requires the report include a report by a licensed physician, licensed psychologist, or other licensed professional who's examined the incapacitated person and make that report part of the guardian's report, right?
That is correct.
Chairman,
It's not bad.
this question, which really relates to the challenges they have. Will the guardian's report have to include contacts from relatives where visitation has been denied? Because that would be the trigger that would give a court the ability to say, wait, there's something going on here, I need to bring these people in to talk about this.
I cannot answer that question because I don't know what the current reporting looks like. I can only say that the bill that was just being discussed does not address that issue.
So the annual report is on a form prepared by the Office of the Executive Secretary of the Supreme Court.
It is. I personally did not prepare that form.
I know, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Chairman.
Delegates is gone now.
Because it would seem maybe there's a way to incorporate the language, some of the language that the delegate has in the decreasing bill so that it does create the trigger for a court to review without anybody filing a petition. The guardian wouldn't have to file a petition.
The DSS might have to do so.
Right, but as long as somebody has a responsibility for reporting to somebody that there's a dispute that needs some resolution.
All right, so let me floor everybody real quickly, because this is important. Let me tell you what the annual report currently requires, that the Office of Executive Secretary promulgated and oversees. A description of the current mental, physical, and social condition of the incapacitated person, a description of the person's living arrangements during the period, the medical, educational, vocational, and other professional services provided in the guardian's opinion as the adequacy of the care, a statement of the frequency and nature of the guardian's visits with and activities on behalf of the person, a statement of whether the guardian agrees with the current treatment or habilitation plan.
Habilitation.
Habilitation plan? Is that like rehabilitation, but it's habilitation? The first time you habilitate and then you rehabilitate?
For somebody with an intellectual disability, it would be known as a habilitation.
Habilitation plan, yeah, probably knows your little bit. A recommendation as to the need for continued guardianship, any recommended change in scope of guardianship, any other information useful in the opinion of the guardian, compensation requested, and reasonable necessary expenses per the guardian. And then they have to certify the report. Now, what's being added in the precinct bill is a report completed by a physician, psychologist, or other licensed professional skilled in the assessment, treatment, physical, mental condition, for incapacitated persons, on and on and on. And that would be filed with DSS, who again, I guess would then have authority to intervene if some issues came up.
Chairman,
Like Scott.
another option would be to rewrite the bill with insert a reporting requirement on the guardian required with reporting of any contacts from relatives where contact has been denied.
Were you in the work group?
Yes.
Okay. Can we bug you for a little longer? I'm sorry to catch you off guard, probably. Was there any discussion in the work group about whether or not the report should be beefed up to include other things besides a medical report?
No, we were mostly concerned about there seems to be a high number of guardians who are not filing the annual report. So the bill that's being proposed, this well, maybe we'll get to here, will give explicit authority to court to require that report be filed annually. And then it will also add a requirement that the individual be seen by somebody other than the guardian, have an independent set of eyes, medical eyes.
And does this first time I ever looked at the 64.2 2020 guardianship report, is this something the court would require for any court-ordered guardians, or is it a subset of guardians?
No, it's required of every guardianship.
All right, so anytime a court orders a guardian, part of that obligation subject to the order is to file an annual report with the stuff I listed, and then maybe soon with this third-party medical report.
That's correct.
So if somebody wanted to also require notice to DSS of declined familial request for interaction, that could be added into this annual report section here. Now, the dilemma procedurally is we can't do that with Delegate Levine's bill because it wouldn't be germane because the code section is written to. But we could certainly work with Precinct, who we kicked off this subcommittee and made it go to appropriations. Yeah, mixed emotions.
May I respond to that suggestion?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that's sufficient. And the reason I don't think that's sufficient is I think an annual report by a guardian ad litem to a court doesn't solve the problem of Matt and Liz Carlatos have not seen their father since a year ago September. Mike Jacobs hasn't seen the love of his life since June. An annual report filed by a guardian, and then what if it doesn't say who they're restricting? And what if it still puts the burden on the family member? It says that Glenn Campbell's kids have lots of money. Not every parent has kids have lots of money. Not every person who has Alzheimer's has a loved one that has access to lawyers. The guardian holds all the cards. The guardian says, I restrict you, and whether it's unreasonable or not, there's not even a hearing with the report. There's not even a hearing on the issue. This says you want to restrict someone, you have a hearing, you notify the person you have to restrict, and you say, this person's abusive, this person asks for money all the time, judge, we need to restrict this person. And then, absolutely, the judge can restrict and should restrict bad people who ask for money all the time or are abusive. But most family members just want to see their loved one, and I really think that should be the default position, rather than requiring them to hire an attorney. Guardians are attorneys, but they can hire attorneys. They have the money of the estate to use. They have all the cards. And this says family members get to see their dying parent or their Alzheimer's parent unless the guardian has an affirmative reason not to. I think this is in the spirit of what we put in 2 years ago. It's just not enforceable. It says you shall not unreasonably restrict. That was the Pogge Wagner watered down language. That's what we tried to do. We agreed unanimously as a General Assembly to do this. The problem is there's no enforcement mechanism. And this says family comes in unless court and guardian orders them out. So I don't think that's sufficient.
Again, just remind everybody, we probably spent 10 hours 2 years ago hearing all these exact same arguments. I don't want to put the people who came here today to support this bill in an awkward position, so if you don't feel like testifying, it's fine. And we don't, let's say, anecdote here, but I did have a question I wanted to ask you, just because you had experiences, either of you want to ask you a question about whether or not you had experience, whether or not your guardian was filing a report or not, and if you found that to be a helpful process, that either of you know if your
I'll speak to
No,
that.
because
Come up.
and I don't want to put you in an awkward position and get too much into your family situation.
As a matter of fact, there was a discrepancy the first year with our father's guardian. You're speaking of 64-2-2020.
Yeah, the one we were talking about, the precinct bill.
She basically put my father in an undisclosed location for more than 2 weeks. We didn't know where he was. There was no information provided whatsoever. We didn't know, he didn't know what nursing home he was in, where he was. She denied us all access and information.
And it wasn't in the
Okay,
final
hold on.
report.
Hold on, because we want to make sure that we keep everything, so everyone can hear everything. And so then, was there a report filed with DSS?
Yes, there was, but the information on that report it did not have details of any kind, about his discharge from the nursing home that he came from, where he went.
Are you all as family members, was there some class of people that's able to get access to that report with
I have it.
DSS?
I have it, I actually have that report.
Do you know who gets them? It would be a public document, but it must be some category.
It was the probate clerk, I believe, in Fairfax.
And if I may add to that, all you have to do is go to the court office. They will pull those annual reports. You cannot make a copy. I love to make a copy.
Right.
You can look at it, but you can't make a copy. And they are thin. They don't put anything in those.
But it's on a form. And so, was it your experience that you had to prove you were a certain person in order to get to see it, or could anybody walk in? Did you have to be a party to the original proceeding, do you know?
Well, I identified myself as my father's daughter. I showed identification, and they very willingly pulled the report. They showed it to me.
Okay. I don't practice area of law, so I'm not experienced with that particular question. Okay. So we have another bill, we have the Supreme Court's, is the Supreme Court's initiative done?
Oh, no, oh, no.
It'll go on forever?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So the precinct bill that's coming forward is just one result of
That's
that
right.
process? Okay. So this subcommittee hears a lot of bills with really, really difficult familial situations and is very, very sensitive to those situations and spends a lot of time trying to get the law right. And this is, again, this is now several years in a row we've had these types of bills, and this is a healthy ongoing process. Can you reevaluating that? There may be some who want to see how the Scano bill from 15 and the Fogey bill from 16 play out, and how the Supreme Court does. There's some who may have enough information now to decide it's time to go back and do the Fogey bill, which is now a version of that is what Delegate Levine and Delegate Reed have filed. So, okay. Anybody on the subcommittee have any questions for the patron?
I was gonna ask if we should take the temperature.
No. I mean, I think I have a feeling where it is, but.
Well, I mean, I think Delegate Levine testimony raised an issue that needs to be addressed. I think on the other hand, what you're saying is you want to give us the time to see how this plays out. So I'm sympathetic to the people that come here to testify. I can certainly understand what they're going through, if they want to see their loved one.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess the best way to take temperature is to put it before the subcommittee.
Move the report.
All right, we have a motion to recommend reporting HB 406. All right, move. Oh, as amended. All right, moved and seconded. All right, that's a debatable motion. I'm going to vote against the motion. I'm going to let you know that now. It is not out of lack of respect for what you all are going through. I have a similar but thankfully more peaceful process in my own family right now with my grandmother and my mother and siblings. I think if we clean up the front end process of how we choose and train guardians, if we clean up the reporting process, and then if we educate people on the ability to enforce that through the unreasonable language from Delegate Fogey's bill, I have a feeling that's going to be adequate if we give it time to work it out, but I understand that others would disagree with that. So I'm going to vote against it for that reason, but certainly very much understand the issue. So, all right. I'm hearing no further debate. We'll open up the voting board. Everybody voting electronic voting board. And that'll keep it on the contested docket so that we can discuss it more in the full board's committee meeting. I don't think, for the people who came here to testify today, I don't think that the full committee is going to meet soon. I think we're going to do probably a bunch more subcommittee work. maybe like a week from now, we might have the first full committee meeting. Yeah, probably, it'll either be, probably won't be next Wednesday, it might be the next Friday, there's some question on whether or not we're gonna be able to have, some of course members running for office. So, all right, thanks, Doug, thanks, Doug.